And welcome to another bright morning on Enterprise Television. I am Kende Bodun.
And I am Henry Igwebike.
All right, we are delighted to start the day with you. As always, we begin with a quick look at today's newspaper headlines before diving into the major conversation of the day. Trust me, you don't want to miss a moment with us. You can join the conversation by liking, following us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. Yeah, and you can also share as well. So joining us this morning is Evans Ufeli. He is a barrister and a public affairs analyst. He will be sharing expert insights on the issues before us. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning, barrister.
Joining.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you so very much for your time.
All right, sir.
So let's kickstart today, very interestingly, with what we have from our newspapers. Which
yeah,
comes first?
We'll go with the Punch first. Okay. And the big story there, we have mass abduction crisis. Tinubu pulls 100,000 policemen from VIPs. Okay, VIPs, yeah.
All right, so we have a rider to that same story. President meets the service chiefs. The DHQ reviews operations of 50 Niger pupils, 38 Kwara churchgoers freed.
We also have audit uncovers over 61 billion naira payments breaches in NNPCL.
All right, so barrister, let's get talking on the mass abduction. Yeah. Interestingly, like a magic wand, we just woke up to realize that 50 of the over 300 abducted in Niger. Yeah. They say they miraculously escaped, and 38 of those abducted in Kwara equally were gained their freedom. Yeah. Speak to us. What do you think is going behind the curtains here? Because this is so unusual. We can't call this a miracle, obviously. Yeah. What do you think is happening?
Oh, ransoms were paid now. I mean, they will not come out to tell you because they want to make the government look competent. Now that the eyes of the international community is on the government, they don't mind. They can spend any amount of money, empower the terrorists with these funds, and then claim that they have regained control of the security situation of Nigeria. That's exactly what's going on. They have not. We know that those who came to abduct those children did it for economic reasons. Whenever the soldiers run out of funds, or whenever they need more money to carry out their atrocities, they go kidnapping children and we raid into their schools and take them away and the rest of that. Then, in the case under reference, it appeared that the federal government wanted to look like they were swift in the matter, and then they have recovered the abductees just like that. You understand? So there's a huge story behind this whole thing, and it's to sustain the facade that this government have capacity. But it's still not working, because if the government have capacity, it should be able to prevent occurrences of such, rather than relying on recovery, and the process parting away with huge sums of money and the rest of that. We know how the government have used Gumi in the past to negotiate, to talk to these people and whatever it is. The government know where they are. The government know who they are, and that was why it was swift. The recovery of those children was swift because government already know these people and where they are. They know where to meet them, and they know where to make the exchange, and they know where to drop the money, and they know how to release the children. That's exactly what has happened. There's no other explanation to it.
All right, I think we're having a little bit of a communication error there, but we'll go for a quick break, and when we return, this is still Enterprise Morning. Please don't go anywhere.
I'll be right back.
Thank you so very much for being back. And just before we went for that quick break, of course, we were speaking to the issue of banditry, insurgency, and the miraculous escape of schoolgirls that were abducted in Niger State, and equally those abducted at the CAC Church at what's the state now?
That's Kwara State.
Kwara State, yeah, exactly. So we still have a Barrister Vance Ofeli. Thank you so very much, a barrister, for being here. We sincerely apologize for the little break. So we were actually speaking to this issue just before we had that break. So you might just continue from where we stopped. Yes.
I said the speedy recovery of the victims is as a result of the payment of ransom, which the government have done. Because in this country, the Nigerian government have found it very difficult to address insurgency. Rather, they are using the state's resources to pay their way through. You know, this government don't want to look incompetent. That is why it can go as far as spending whatever it is you want to think. It's within its disposal to ensure that it sustains the facade that it has competence. Especially now that the international community is beaming its torchlight on the insecurity issue in Nigeria. So government will stop at nothing to ensure that they're able to. But it's still not working because, I mean, instead of you to create a security architecture that can prevent occurrence, you are rather spending resources to recover after occurrence, which in itself is not good. And this also goes to show you that if the government really want to fight insecurity, it can actually do it. It can actually put up resistance against insecurity. But because of politics and then because of all manners of complications that even the public don't know about, this insecurity persists. And so right now, are we supposed to hail the government for this is this success or for this recovery? Are we supposed to be indifferent? Or are we supposed to say that insurgency has ended in Nigeria suddenly as a result of this recovery? I do not know where you stand. I don't know where the public stand, but I do not think that this is a cure to the problem of insecurity in Nigeria.
Right. We have seen that 100 policemen have
100,000.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. 100,000 policemen have been, withdrawn from VIP's protection. So, do you think allocating these officers will genuinely help reduce the mass abduction crisis? Do you think we would have,
Well, having more policemen on patrol and on the sensitive issue will go a long way to perhaps increase intelligence and then gets at least substantial amount of the policemen you recruit to the public space. Because before now, almost half of them are not in the public space, they are for VIPs who can pay for security. So that is what has been. And even this one I said they are knowing 10,000. Most times it's just a news item. This 10,000.
100,000 actually, Barrister.
100,000.
Sorry, this 100,000. I said most times it's just a news item. This 100,000, before you know it, they are back to their VIP posts. Okay? Because Nigeria is about who can pay for what, when, and how. So the general public live at the mercy of criminals. Okay? So right now, because of this whole international involvement, government is doing everything it can do to ensure that we'll look good out there. But you see, there's no serious attempt to sustain security, to sustain whatever it is we have. And that's the painful thing about it. It shows everywhere we go. Our solutions are very temporary. Our solutions are not sustainable. They are not firm enough as they should, because the value the government places on the citizens of this country is not Not anything to write home about. That is just the pure truth.
All right, Barrister, I would love us to get to the crux of the matter here. Now, this is one part of the analysis lots of media houses, I mean legacy media houses in Nigeria, try as much as they can to avoid. And that is the issue of complicity. From those who have analyzed this issue, security experts, former military experts and all, they've said that there is a strong complicity of those in power. In fact, someone on social media alleged, a very good security expert said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed a treaty with terrorists. And so the rumor goes on and on and on. What do you think is the problem? Because every other time we seem to treat this terrorist with kid gloves. But when the protester comes out to say, end bad governance, he is sent to correctional centers. Speak to me on the issue of complicity.
Yeah, there's no doubt that there's complicity. I listened to the Pastor Ladi Thompson on this security issue, he has considerable knowledge on security issues and security matters in Nigeria, and has served at the AU on that same issue. He made that statement that there's a treaty signed by Bola Tinubu and the insurgents and the rest of that, except that there was no evidence to show. There was no material evidence, let me put it that way. He left that interview and the viewers with circumstantial evidence, which oftentimes may not be the best evidence in matters as weighty as this. Okay, so, but, I mean, from all indications, without material evidence, from all indications, why is it that leaders, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, cannot take a decisive decision on insecurity? Even if there's no treaty, I will believe that there's a treaty. Yes, I choose to believe that there's a treaty. Whether my belief is based on error or based on whatsoever, I will believe it. Because there's no reason. There's no reason why your government will be going down. You are losing popularity. You are being vilified, international community. Everyone is calling on you to do what you ought to do as a leader, and you're unable to do it. With all the powers at your disposal, with all the, all the energy and the resources you have, you are not able to perform. You are just there. It speaks to one thing. It speaks to only one thing, that there's an agreement or there's a covenant somewhere, cut somewhere, that if you act beyond your limit, you will be visited or whatsoever. That's the only interpretation I can give to it in the absence of evidence. Because from all indication, it appears that there are persons who are remoting this insecurity, who cannot be touched. Who, if you touch them, it will cost you your second term, or even the current position you are. So that's exactly what is going on. So, and we are being told that this insecurity thing goes beyond the proliferation of Islamic fundamentalism. That, there's an orchestrated plan somewhere to, usurp the entire country and take over the whole of the West African sub-region for the purposes of so that is an extended discussion. The primary issue we need to address now is, how do we curtail, defeat, and turn back this evil that is coming? Okay, government will have to answer that question. For the citizen, theirs is to pay their taxes, do their part of their responsibilities, put forth that, and then government is expected, under obligation, to protect them. Whether there is a conspiracy to bring down the heavens, it's not the citizens' business. The business of government is to ensure that the heavens does not fall, or whatever it is that is harm, that is imminent, that is coming, is averted. Okay. Now, which is cheaper? These children that were rescued, after kidnapped, with the horrible experience they've gone through. Which is cheaper? To prevent their abduction or to allow them to be abducted because of lack of security and then go rescue them, and then pay a huge amount of money and the rest of that. So you see that we're better under the preventive net than to be cast, in the face of insecurity, just so that when people are taking, you not go after. And so this whole thing is not making sense at all.
It's not making sense. And still on the issue, the Inspector General of Police has been tasked by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that about 30,000 new police personnel are recruited into the service. And equally, the military are hoping to get 24,000 people. They said that 10,000 that they had already had on board went away. And therefore, they said if Nigerians refuse to enlist with the military, that every young man above the age of 18 would be forced to serve with the military. Do you think that would ever come to fruition in Nigeria anytime soon?
That will lead to more confusion, because if you force people against their will to be enlisted in the army or in the police, then it's an invitation to chaos. It's an invitation to crisis, because this person you are going to force against their will to join the army, then you give them gun later on. The ones that join willingly are using the gun to shoot people, to kill people recklessly. Then you now force people to join. By the time they join, you will not be able to handle the crisis that will follow it. Yes, because you have not sanitized the army, you have not sanitized the police. You don't have plans for them. Their barracks are always dirty. Their uniforms are dirty. They cannot dress well. They cannot eat well. They cannot bathe well. Their children cannot go to good school. You have turned them to refugees. Then you are now asking people who are living their normal life that they should come and join. Many of them were excited. They joined when they saw the texture, when they saw the texture and the temperament of welfare and service. They all left. Yes. Former Governor Joseph Kalu was on Arise TV yesterday on Politics Sunday to complain about the fact that it was even telling Shehu that when the government put out vacancy for police, why didn't Shehu apply? So it has got the federal government is that desperate. See, when you have frustrated people for so long, they lose. When your human beings lose faith in you, there's no amount of program you organize that will interest them. That's exactly what is going on. You see these people that all these people that applied and you cannot find them any longer. Just go around in the afternoon, just go around the Bet Naija shop. You see them at the Bet Naija shop playing bet. You understand? Some of them are doing Yahoo and the rest of that. Some of them are in Paraga joints as early as 6:30 drinking their sorrows away. So when you have frustrated people to that point, what exactly do you want them to do? To join your army where you are, army that is infested with insurgents? Is that the army they should join? Didn't they watch how the general was killed a few days ago? How was he killed? He made a call. He made a video WhatsApp call to let the army to know where exactly he is. It was that same call that some people in the army used to inform ISWAP about his location. That same thing is what they use. What led to his death actually came from the army. Just when he thought they were coming for his rescue, he never knew was the enemy that was coming. So that's the one that you are asking people to rush to go and jump. There was a time in this country where people applied to the Nigerian army, they were never taken. I remember I have a brother that was very athletic, had all the composure. If you see him, you say this one could have made it to the army and the rest of that. He did everything, passed all the training, they did not take him. Changed his name from this into Hausa name, they still didn't take him. Today, now you're not asking people to rush. What's the motivation exactly? Do you have health insurance for them? What's the welfare like? You understand? A lot of people rush into the United States Army because of the welfare that surrounds it and what is in it for them and their future. in the case of Nigeria, there's nothing in it. I mean, you don't get much out of it. Our parents served the army. I know what it was like. My dad served the army for 26 years. And as the time he left after 26 years, I don't think he wanted any of us to be part of it. You understand? So people will join if they want to join. But if you want to force them, and then for government officials to go around TV stations to be telling presenters that why didn't they apply and the rest of that, it's unfortunate. They are children. His children should be enlisted. All the politicians should bring their children and enlist them first, then we will follow.
So do you think it's going to be possible, even if they bring their children to be part of the...
It's just part of it. And funnily, as we speak, there are contractors actually recruiting Nigerians into the Ukraine and the Russian military, fighting themselves. And Nigerians right now are serving with the Ukrainian army. Some are serving with the Russian contractors too.
That means they even prefer being
So they prefer to get killed in Russia or Ukraine than have themselves, do the thing that they do here in Nigeria. But Barrister, I'd love us to go into some legal understanding of some things we have from the newspapers. Can I say unfortunately, because the newspapers is taken over by Nest Oil Limited, all through the front pages of all the newspapers. I'd love you to help us make some sense out of that. And it is on the issue of alleged $1 billion Nest Oil debt claim. First Bank, Access Bank, Zenith Bank MDs risk imprisonment over alleged disobedience of court order. Help us make sense of this issue. Of course, it's alleged that Nest Oil owner is owing about $1 billion, and he said he is not owing that sort of amount, and so many other issues. But it's a legal issue. Help us, at least for those who might not understand what's happening there.
Yeah, that issue. That I was talking on that issue some time ago at the News Central. What I read from that story is that there's the bank have records to the effect that there's a loan that was taken for which its principal sum and interest cumulatively have reached the figure which you mentioned. Okay, but Nest Oil itself is saying that it cannot remember owing such amount of money, and that whatever it is that have been put forth were false, were inflated figures, and that there is a grand conspiracy and fraud around this whole arrangement, that some persons want to sabotage the company and the rest of that. Okay, so they're embroiled in this crisis. The details will definitely be resolved by the court, because none of us, not First Bank, not TV station, not Nest Oil himself can solve the problem until they subject that conflict to legal battle. The matter is already been determined in a way, two ways. Either it is settled out of court, or the court will look into it, and then this is even though it's making it to the news, but it's primarily a private company versus the bank and loan and the rest of that. So that's as much I can say about it.
How do you think, okay, let me put it this way, how does the banking dispute impact, right? How does this banking dispute impact public confidence in financial institutions? I don't know if this is well structured.
Yeah.
Did you get that, Barrister? Sorry.
I got it here. You are talking about how disputes like this with bank impact on
between them,
public confidence
perception.
in the bank and all that. Perception and all that. See, the truth is that whichever way you look at it, as long as a bank is a going concern and as long as it has recapitalized, there's public confidence in the bank. Financial experts will tell you that if a bank or financial institution have met all its expectations and have met all the conditions for which it should exist, then it's a going concern. There should be public confidence in it, on it and the rest of that. So that a bank is being owed, okay, does not really affect public confidence, except the bank is under recession. It's not able to carry on business, and is becoming an ongoing concern, and it has made or filed for liquidation. Okay, but you know the financial institution does not run like just an ordinary company. There's an NDIC that ensure deposit funds. Okay, and there's a recapitalization process wherein the Central Bank of Nigeria regulates the commercial banks to the extent that it keeps it healthy as long as the bank is a going concern. So to that extent, to the regulatory concerns and all that there's loan somewhere from a company, private company, and the banks are embroiled in that, and they're trying to find a way out of it, and the rest of that does not affect public confidence. The only thing that affects public confidence is when the depositors discover that there's a tendency that they may lose their money, or you will now have a panic withdrawal, and you now have things like that. But all those issues have been taken care of by regulatory authorities right now, so we cannot run into that. It was during the military era, at the time of Abacha and the rest of that, when banks were being, when the strict regulation came up, that you had that panic withdrawal thing. It's no longer so. There's stability now in financial institutions in Nigeria.
But speak to us on the issue of, just before we leave for this particular segment, speak to us on the issue of this affecting the opportunities for unicorns in Nigeria. We have lots of countries with very sustainable, valuable unicorns. That is companies with over $1 billion as their net worth and all. It is not happening very soon in Nigeria. We hardly get to see it's just 1 or 2 or 3. So don't you think that the government is equally making it a bit difficult for Nigerian entrepreneurs, blue chip companies to become unicorns and compete globally with the world?
No, you have to look at the size of your economy. The unicorns we are talking about, you are referring to companies in America, in the UK, in very big, very large economies. Look at one company in America, its GDP is more than that of the whole Nigeria. Microsoft, for example, Microsoft GDP is more than the GDP of Nigeria. So if you have Microsoft in a country, of course, that country, if you have the likes of Microsoft in a country, maybe like 20, you understand? That impacts on the GDP of the country. Yeah. So is it a country that have no light, no electricity at all, that will provide unicorns? I mean, you have 1 or 2 of them, the likes of Coca-Cola and the rest of that. Okay, the likes of NLNG, the likes of, you have some of them, okay, but they can only be as scanty as the GDP of Nigeria, because Nigeria is not an investment destination. It's not a mecca of sorts of investment. You ask those who are experts in investment, they will tell you about it. First, we're talking about a deluge of insecurity. The companies that can go to Nigeria now are only Indian companies, Lebanese companies, and Chinese companies, who sometimes have the same dubious tendencies. So they can sustain and succeed under some dubious environment. Okay, you cannot find. I mean, how many companies have you seen, moving into sites in Nigeria, if it's not Chinese or Lebanese? And what are they really doing? If it's not illegal mining, it is that they are opening supermarkets. Okay, buying and selling, which is not even a sustainable economic trust. Okay, and the rest of that. The few ones that were there before, the likes of ShopRite had to leave because the economy was strangulating. Okay, so if Nigeria want to take investment very serious, we have to restore electricity and go back to manufacturing. That is it. You see this manufacturing that the Chinese are doing in Nigeria, where they are buying the whole of Ogun State to start manufacturing, that they will use diesel to manufacture products. How much will they sell those products? So you see that inflation, we keep, there's a nexus between electricity and inflation. As long as people have to spend so much to the point that when the goods finally comes out, what it will take to purchase it will be as high as what it will take to purchase if it had been reported. Then you now ask yourself, what is the essence? What is the essence if I produce this in my country and after the shipping cost, the excise duty and all that, I'll sell it this amount and I produce it here. I produce it here with the high cost of production, the running cost, and I will still sell it. So see, Nigeria is not viable for investment. It has to go through some transformation, some reforms, critical economic reforms, one of which is electricity, the second which is security, electricity security. You don't have those two, and you're talking about unicorns, it's not going to work. It will not work.
Not work. There's just a few you mentioned amongst the many judicial reforms. You know, investors would love to be sure that when they have issues, they run to the court, they will get, you know, the right kind of judgment and many other, you know, issues here and there. But that's just about the time we have for this segment. Please don't go anywhere. When we return, this judgment is void. A lawyer breaks a silence on Kanu's life sentence. That in a beat, still Enterprise Morning.
We'll be right back.
Thank you so very much for giving us your time. And if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our conversation for today. An Anambra-based lawyer and chairman of the Ebonyi Lawyers Forum, Victor Alo, has criticized the life sentence given to IPOB leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, calling it a per incuriam judgment. He argued in Nkpor that the Federal High Court should have first decided the issue of jurisdiction raised by Kanu before ruling. Alo also noted that the Terrorism Act used in the trial had been repealed, insisting that the conviction based on defunct law violates the legal maxim ex nihilo nihil fit, which means that nothing comes from nothing.
Very true. He further questioned the evidence presented, saying no weapon was tendered and nothing proved Kanu's involvement in terrorism beyond reasonable doubt. Alo acknowledged that Kanu's conduct in court was sometimes confrontational, but maintained that behavior cannot replace concrete evidence. He added that none of the alleged perpetrators of violence had been arrested or made statements linking Kanu to the acts.
Also, Alo expressed optimism that the Court of Appeal or Supreme Court would overturn what he called an unsustainable verdict. He also suggested that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu could grant Kanu clemency as an alternative measure to ease tension and promote stability in the southeast of Nigeria. We still have Barrister Vansufeli. Barrister, thank you so very much for your time and hanging on.
Well, well. Yeah.
All right, so let's get talking on this issue, which I would love to believe the shelf life is still very, very active. We might discuss this issue around the country for as long as it remains. But let's get talking on the legal issue now. All of those things that your colleague stated there, some of them are Latin words and all. I would love you to help us break it down, please, so we understand where we are and many more.
Yes, there's an absolute miscarriage of justice in that case. There's a miscarriage of justice because if you look at it, ex nihilo nihil fit, nothing comes from nothing. You cannot pull something from nothing. Nothing is equal to nothing. Okay. It's a judgment that is delivered per incuriam, which means that the judgment itself did not follow the basic legal principle for which we ought to have followed. Now, when you look at the spread of the case, there are three fundamental issues. First, the law upon which he was charged had been repealed. Okay, so the statutory absence of the existence of that law itself, foils that issue. Okay. Two, the objection raised by Nnamdi Kanu in terms of the objection that relates to that the court lacks jurisdiction to that effect was not adhered to by the judge. Primary objection under the law, once it is brought, the law says that it can be raised at any point before judgment. So, and once it is raised, the court must first of all suspend whatsoever it is doing to attend to that. When the issue of jurisdiction is raised, the court must first of all assume jurisdiction to determine whether it has jurisdiction or not. That was not done. Okay? Then the third one has to do with proof beyond reasonable doubt, the material evidence, the nexus, that the unequivocal evidence that's supposed to link Nnamdi Kanu to the charge was not there. Like the lawyer said, there was no weapon. Even when you go beyond that, there was nothing direct. You are saying he made this statement, he made that statement. All those whom were affected, nobody was called as witness to testify. So the court solely relied on circumstantial evidence under the Evidence Act. Circumstantial evidence requires corroboration before it can be fit for conviction. Okay? So when you look at the case in its totality, this three defects deflate the argument put forth by that judgment for the conviction of Nnamdi Kanu. In criminal cases, the law says that you cannot charge someone for an offense not known to law, and you cannot charge someone for an offense that is not in a written law. Okay, so if you are charging someone on a law that has been repealed, and you have that in your charge sheet, what you need to do is to first of all address that as a prosecution counsel or the prosecution team, which was not done. Okay, criminal trial requires proof beyond reasonable doubt. It is not enough to say he made statements. To whom did he make the statement? Where are the witnesses? Where are the evidence? Okay, upon his conviction, on what basis are you arriving at his guilt and thereafter his conviction and sentencing? Okay, so we don't, in law, you cannot, apply speed and kill it on the altar of technicality. So is the court. I absolutely agree with the lawyer that that judgment is sitting on a very wrong tripod, because by the time you clear those three angles, three aforementioned angles, there's nothing left of that judgment. Because it is political, perhaps there is a pressure to score points. But the law does not see it that way. Whether a matter is political or not, even if a matter is political, it must conform to legal process, legal proceedings. If a defendant is raising an objection, you don't say because you want to deliver judgment, you want to end the case, you go ahead and deliver judgment. When in section 36 of the 1999 Constitution, it says that the defendant must be given adequate time and facility to prepare for his defense. There are times when the judge
he was given more than enough opportunity.
No.
Especially when he said he wanted to defend himself. The judge kept telling him
when he filed the objection, the motion to challenge jurisdiction, the judge refused to hear the motion. He was given enough time to enter his defense, but he opted for a motion.
So what's the difference?
To challenge the jurisdiction. Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are asking him to open his defense. That's to call his witnesses that he has listed. He listed many of them. You're asking to call them and have his case dispensed with. You understand? You gave him enough adjournment on that. In the process of that, he came up with a motion. He brought out a motion. He filed a motion and said that I am challenging the jurisdiction of this court. It's allowed in law. Objection can be brought at any point before judgment.
Wow.
Yes. There are times when the judge has written a full judgment, has adjourned to deliver the judgment, and will file motion to arrest the judgment. It's allowed in law. So what will now happen is that instead of the court to go ahead to deliver that judgment, the court will suspend that judgment, the substantive suit, and focus on the motion filed. Okay? And then deal with that motion to its conclusion before it goes back to the judgment. That is the law. Okay? So if that was not followed, would you still say that the judgment is sound on that? See, judgment, however sound and brilliant, that is delivered by a court that lacks jurisdiction goes to no issue. Ex nihilo, nihil fit. From nothing comes nothing. This judgment cannot be an exception. It cannot be because lawyers just kept quiet. You can't. This is the first judgment that we are putting something on nothing and expecting it to stand. It cannot stand. This has nothing to do with emotions. And the fact that a defendant is unruly in court, uncultured and mannerless, does not give the court, does not give the court, does not empower the court to pass judgment against him. There are other options the court ought to have turned to by contempt, the court will have charged him for contempt or any other remedy available to the court. So because I've heard people say because he was unruly, that is why the court had to quickly. That is judicial blasphemy. To convict a man because he's unruly. No.
See, it's actually interesting, Barrister, you're saying. Yes, Barrister, sorry to cut in here. It's actually very interesting as you fleshing out some of these things and expose them as much as you can. But as a lawyer, is it fair to say that at this point you are questioning the intellectual dexterity of or Motosh or SAN at this point, and knowing what he had going on?
Very well, very well. What do we do on appeal? I can talk like this now because the case has ended, and they have not filed appeal. They are filing today or tomorrow. The reason lawyers cannot talk outlandishly before night because the matter is sub judice. Right now, it's no longer sub judice. And when we go on appeal, what do we say? We say, see how we couch appeal. Let me tell you how we couch appeal. The learned trial judge misdirected himself. That's how we couch appeal. When he, when he concluded or made so that's how you couch appeal. The learned trial judge erred in law. Do you understand? So that is it. So you will see that the appeal will be framed around these three premises. It's a criminal matter, it's not a civil suit. Criminal matters that the penalty is capital. You don't treat it with kid's glove. The fact that Nnamdi Kanu unwittingly said he was going to defend himself does not change the procedures and principles of law. The procedures and principles of law, they still stand. Jurisdiction is a threshold issue, is a hallmark of litigation. When a court lacks jurisdiction, it lacks everything. And one thing the law forbids is that you can't pull something from nothing. It will not work.
You are shaking the table at this point, and
yes, that is what it is exactly. The public need to know. I have an article already that will be published in Sarah Reporters in the next 1 or 2 hours, which I wrote last night. That judgment, I didn't even know it's going to coincide with what I'm going to talk about this morning. Okay, so the law have processes and procedures. That is why it is not a sound judgment to allow non-lawyers to dabble into to say I want to defend myself. It is not, because let me tell you, if Nnamdi Kanu had allowed Kanu Agabi to even do this defense, these whole issues would have been very difficult for the court to even convict in the first place, because they were brought up salient issues. And see, it's not enough that people died. You must link that death to an act of terror, and you must link that terror to the defendant. You understand? Somebody said somewhere, made a broadcast somewhere that you do this, then you interpreted it to mean he incited people. You understand? Then you did not go further to prove it by saying that incited people, these are the persons that are affected, these are their testimony, these are the witnesses, this person were affected in this particular place, the broadcast led to this, and the rest of that. You are just saying from here that it was the broadcast that led to the killing of police at the NSAS, or the broadcast just led to which police was killed during the NSAS. So please, we can't just sit back and say no. Hardly will you find a lawyer that supports Nnamdi Kanu's approach and his conduct and his character. His character is distasteful. His conduct is overbearing. The way he approached matter is not acceptable. But on this issue of his trial, the prosecution hadn't proven his case. The prosecution hadn't proven his case because the prosecution is supposed to rely on the strength of his case than rely on the weakness of the defendant's case. What they did, all the evidence they tendered and the rest of that, they were not disproved or rebutted. That was why the court went that direction. And even when the court went that, the court still erred by going that direction because jurisdictional issues were pending. Lack of prove beyond reasonable doubt the standard in criminal matter was not adhered to. And so you can't just rush because you want to convict and then conclude that it's a complete miscarriage of justice, to say the least.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. So, can a life sentence stand if no arrested perpetrator linked Kanu to to the alleged crimes? Can it still stand?
Can an arrested what?
Can a life sentence? He was given a life sentence. Can a life sentence stand if no arrested perpetrators linked Kanu to the alleged crimes?
That is part of what was saying, that for now, the court has reached its own decision. Do you understand?
Yeah.
If Kanu does not appeal, this judgment will stand. Do you understand? However, erroneously delivered and not considering the full principles of law. But if this judgment is appealed, which is probable, you understand, it will not stand because of the legal error made by the court of first instance. So the court of appeal will have to look at those grounds of appeal vis-a-vis the laws that establish them, the laws that they are going to back them up with. And the court of appeal will take a decision whether the court of first instance did the right thing or it erred. At appeal, nobody's calling witnesses. It's a jury court. The court of appeal is looking at the decision taken by the court of first instance, the reason behind the decisions, okay, and the legal consideration of law that was applied by the court to the fact of the case. Where they are wrong, the court of appeal will point them out.
All right.
Okay.
And take a decision.
Understood.
All right. So let's just take a look at some comments from Nigerians who have written here. We have one Chalo T2X who said, the people sharing Nnamdi Kanu's broadcast on social media are the ones inciting the public. So it's not the creator, the content creator, but those who share it. That's what this young man is saying.
Yeah.
And another person said, that is Anthony, said, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a prophet. He called him Jesus of our time. God bless Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa and one Dr. Ngozi in the United States of America. So let's get to this matter. I truly do understand that every nation comes with its constitution, the way it should do things, law and all that. But I'd love to know if this is a universal application, especially with regards to the evidence that you shared, that if someone makes a broadcast and there's no evidence that really shows that the person physically was part of what he has said, that he has no case. But in the case of Simon Ekpa, that's Finland, he was judged on the premise of all the things he said, just like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and jailed for 5 years plus. And equally, let's take this equally to Rwanda. During the genocide era, a young man, a broadcaster who was saying, kill the cockroaches, one Kachagwa, he made himself to Canada and was repatriated back because the Canadian people said, no, we can't stand this. You can't just make statement, and as a result of that, people kill people. These two individuals, Simon Ekpa and this man from Rwanda, they didn't actively participate in it, but because of what they created led to so many issues. In the case of Nnamdi Kanu, don't you think it equally should apply?
Yeah, I didn't say that he made those statements and because he didn't physically come to, no, that's not what I said. Inciting people under our law is an offense. It's an offense by the Terrorism Prevention Act and the Criminal Code. Okay, it's an offense. But I'm saying that offense is not just by expression. The prosecution must prove the offense. The prosecution must prove the offense. That's what I'm saying. And if the prosecution is not able to prove the offense, what it means is that the court cannot convict. Because, see, when you say somebody incite, what do you mean by incitement? Is it by just framing a charge sheet?
Because
are you not supposed to call witnesses? So are you not supposed to call witnesses, those who are affected thereafter, as a byproduct of what has happened? You understand? So if that is not proven, and you just rely on circumstantial evidence, and you are convicting somebody for life, does it make sense to you? That's what I'm saying. So the standard of proof under our criminal law is beyond reasonable doubt. You understand? You have to establish it beyond reasonable doubt. So if you have not done that, if you have not established it beyond reasonable doubt, you cannot validly say that the person is guilty of that offense of incitement. That's what I mean.
All right. Okay, so let's hope that all of this is quite, received by people who might not understand this and more. But the family of Nnamdi Kanu have said that he is taken away to Sokoto is not good enough. Do you think? Prison. Yes. Do you think it's in our laws? It's okay for people to say or direct where people should go to?
Like that. Whatever you can do is persuasive. You can say because the matter is in Abuja and he wants to file cases, he wants to file motions and all that, it will be difficult for him to file and all that. You can put up all those arguments. But you cannot decide the prison custody that the defendant is being taken to and all that. It can only be persuasive. Sorry, the convicted person now is taken to. It can only be persuasive.
Okay.
Okay. What impact could a possible clemency from President Tinubu have on national stability? So I just thought of linking this story to this particular question.
Yes, clemency would normally one of the grounds for which President grants clemency is if there is miscarriage of justice. If the matter have political coloration that requires stability and so many other considerations. Okay, the president can do that, and that cleans the entire conviction and everything.
My last question is this, because you talked about circumstantial evidence. So I went searching, because of course there are lots of information here and there. And what I have here says that circumstantial evidence is sufficient for conviction if it forms a complete and unbroken chain that points exclusively to the guilt of the accused, excluding any other reasonable hypothesis of innocence. So, does this make sense? Yes.
Yeah, excluding any other reasonable hypothesis
of innocence.
It can only be relied on if all the arrow points to the person.
So, is all the arrow not pointing to Nnamdi Kanu?
No, he made a broadcast. You understand?
Yes.
But the thing is, have you proven beyond reasonable doubt that the broadcast incited people? And the incitement led to the death of soldiers and policemen and all that. He was saying, if you see the Nigerian police, attack them, attack the army, kill them. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Then you need witnesses to accentuate how many soldiers were killed.
Oh, okay.
Where were they killed? When? Is it before the broadcast or after? You have to link those deaths to that broadcast unequivocally. That's what I'm saying. First of all, were there any death of soldiers?
Yes, there were many.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Then, where? When? They will bring evidence. Even if they see, if people died, who die anywhere, you cannot ascribe the soldiers, all the soldiers that died within that period to the broadcast. You have to prove it. That's what I'm saying. And we're not done.
All right, we have to prove it and all. So we just hope that this is a developing story, and we promise to bring them to you as they unfold. It's a very tough one. Of course, I said the shelf life is still open. We keep speaking about it, talking about it, and hopefully the appeal will be made today or tomorrow, like Barrister did say, and lots of other stories will come up as this unfolds. And lots of learning for us journalists, and equally for students of law, you know, to understand all of this, and hope that that all of this would work. And Barrister, just before we let you go, what do you think the NJC is doing now? Do you think they are standing in as spectators, or they don't have a hand in any of these things, knowing what you said about the court really not doing the right thing?
I didn't get the question.
I said the NJC, do you think they are standing in as spectators, knowing all the things happening and what lawyers are saying against the judgment and all? What do you think should be...
Well, the NJC, they'll take judicial notice of what is going on, and at the right time, they will do what they are supposed to do by law.
All right. Okay, people, that's just about the time we have. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for your time. We truly do appreciate you and your insight. All right. So, people, thank you so very much. So, we have to leave now just to make room for other interesting programs coming up in a minute. But please do well to follow us. If you may, you can find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike.
And I am Kendi Bodrin.
Have yourself a splendid day. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. We'll see you soon.
Bye for now.